Good evening and salutations, my Jade fans. Okay, so we gotta talk about these kids. Okay, we gotta talk about these kids. We gotta talk about Charlotte because honestly, tell you the truth, they about to make shit a whole lot worse. Okay, about to make things a whole lot worse. So while the parents, Sonny and Alexis and Rick, they're all trying to get on the same boat, right? They're all trying to get on the same boat or whatever. Eventually, they all come to the conclusion, which, listen, Lulu takes the longest, and I understand why, because in all reality, when they first present, when Rick is first presenting this idea to Lulu and Dante, and, Dante is like, this is not even a guarantee. I can't do this. Because honestly, to tell you the truth, he's like, listen, Charlotte and Danny could sit there. They could um, do this whole thing, and it's not going to matter if it doesn't work. They can all wind up going to juvie and getting the record and stuff like that. So it's like, he's like, I don't know about this. But Sonny backs him. Now, Sonny does, Sonny doesn't have faith with Rick as a person, but he has faith in him as a lawyer, right? And eventually they get everybody on board. Alexis gets Jason on board and everything like that, right? And while Danny and Charlotte are in the room, Charlotte's like, "Oh, we gotta sit there and make this guy pay." And she's like, "Now, what if Dalton wound up hitting Rocco?" I'm like, "Wait, hold on. First of all, this is not the way to go." Because like now, and Danny was like, "We'll be lying under oath." But Charlotte being Charlotte is like, "Nah, we should do it." Um, you know, Not to mention just it's straight up wrong, and just tell the truth and just let the chips fall where they may, or whatever. As far as that's concerned, but also they got to get Rocco on board. They got to get Rocco on board. On top of that, there's no visual marks on him. There's a point where Dante is like, yeah, we're having forensics sit there and look at the evidence now. And I'm like, wait, hold on. It's been 3 days. It's been 3 days. And now they're just getting to it. You don't see any, just like, I don't understand, like, you know what, it's a soap opera and they're just trying to make it work best way that they can and they're clearly failing, but whatever. Um, so yeah, that's Charlotte's plan, and Danny is just going along with it, and they're going to make things a lot worse. Now, to tell you the truth, listen, they get in trouble. I am not going to feel bad for Charlotte and Danny. It's like, in all reality, they should have never broken into this place in the first place. They should have never broken in. You had Emma or Gio, one of them already called it off. If they would have listened, this wouldn't have happened. And now they're just making, you know what I'm saying? Like now they're just making it worse. You got that going on. You have Jordan and Laura talking and, talking about Rocco and the election and everything like that. And Laura apologizes for the fact that, she feels like she's losing. And she's like, when I do, you're not going to have a place to come back to. And Jordan apologizes for not getting the job done. Um, Now Laura's like, well, don't Sitwell's a very smart man, and he knows how to cover his tracks. And like, yeah, that's true, but like, maybe if Jordan was actually focused on the mission instead of Smith there trying to get back with Curtis, you know, maybe it would have sped up a little faster. Just nugget. Maybe it would have sped up just a little bit faster. Um, Yeah. So that didn't happen. Um, and then Drew comes in, and at first it was just seeming like Drew was just coming in just to be a dick or whatever, like, oh, you're gonna lose, and this, that, and the third. And eventually he kicks out Jordan, and he's like, I need you to endorse Ezra. You're already losing. Might as well sit there and endorse him. Now, Jordan, was not there talking before she left, and was like, you would think that this life and death situation that you just had, this near death experience, would sit there and change you. And of course, Laura's like, you never used to be like this. Now, while he's sitting there trying to tell her to endorse Ezra, he's also sitting there thinking about how he's no longer in charge when it comes for Sitwell. Sitwell is the one that's calling the shots and pretty much has material that can land Drew in jail. So, he's kind of being forced to do this. The sad thing is that Drew has done so much horrible things. I feel like as the audience, we don't even care. Like I feel like we don't even care. It's more like karma, right? Now Jordan comes back in, and they looking at the polls and stuff like that, and it turns out Laura won. Of course, Laura won. You know, so now Drew has this idiotic doe-eyed look on his face, like what? Now the brown dog, right? Dalton has been drinking, and Vaughn meets up with Jocelyn and tells her to flirt with him. He's already had his fourth round or whatever. Just flirt with him, get some information, and she does. She learned that Dalton has another lab, far away from neighbors. I mean, far not an actual. He's doing his illegal testing, his illegal animal testing. Okay, because he is a vile piece of shit. Um, Off campus, somewhere where there's no neighbors and stuff like that. And so, Jocelyn is doing her thing. Emma and Rocco, I mean, not Emma, Emma and Gio. Gio's still thinking about what Dante said. You know, I don't know. Again, I'm just like, I don't know what you expected to happen. What did you expect to happen when you told Dante that you wrote Rocco into this whole thing? Now, yeah, I do agree with Emma as far as that was a cheap shot. And this saying, "Oh, you did this just to impress her," or whatever, right? But in Dante's eyes, this is the second time that he felt like Gio has used poor judgment, and as a result, he felt that Rocco had to sit there and pay the consequences of Gio's bad judgment. Now, Rocco is not innocent in either one of those cases, but I can't sit there and say that Gio helped out in the situation. He didn't help out the first time. He should have sat there and called Dante, and he should have never roped um, Rocco into this whole thing. And you know what I'm saying? Like common sense would be like, all right, listen, we finally start to sit there and get past the whole drunken thing. You would think that he wouldn't do that, but yeah. So anyway, they go down to the brown dog. And like I said, Jocelyn is making progress. Jocelyn's making so much progress to the point where she, gets him to invite her back to the secret lab. Anyway, they get into the whole thing with Emma, and at first Gio's like, oh, thinking that Jocelyn needs saving. You want to hang out with us? I haven't seen you in a while. So we catch up, da 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 da. Emma, in her feelings, decided to start coming hard at Dalton Smith, is saying that you're a creep and you're this and you're that and you're a liar, and then she admits to being the person responsible the first time when his lie was broken into, and was the one that came up with the idea of roping in the kids or whatever. Smith is saying that she was the ringleader. I'm like, girl, why are you? I was like, why are you telling on yourself? It's so upset to the point where um, Emma throws a drink at him. Now at this point, you got a drunken Dalton, right? That's so mad. They almost look like he's about to sit there and like press her or whatever. Until Vine comes over, flashes his badge or whatever, and it's like, kind of gets the situation to calm down. It's like, and I want to sit there and see my office tomorrow. So Vine leaves, Dalton leaves, and I don't know why is Jocelyn being so nice to Emma. I do not understand it, but Emma's like, damn, now you have the WSB that's not there looking in at Dalton. I didn't need to do this. I didn't need to sit there and get these kids involved. All this stuff was for nothing. And there was no animals there. But Jocelyn, she is way more generous than me, was like, no, your suspicions wasn't for nothing. You know, she pretty much told her about the illegal testing with animals and a different site and everything like that. Um, and so, she pretty much like, your efforts was not in vain. And Emma feels a little bit better about, you know, at least not thinking that she was wrong, her instincts was wrong and stuff like that. But I'm not gonna lie. I mean, listen, Vaughn played the professional. Even when Dalton got a little handsy with Jocelyn, um, so I know it must have felt good to sit there and confront him, not just to de-escalate the situation, but also, you know, they're dating and everything. Now, Britt from yesterday is pretty much demanding that Sitwell put a leash on Dalton. Otherwise, she's going to expose everything. And I'm not going to lie, watching Sitwell sit there and imitate Jason was like the highlight of my goddamn day. Like, it really was. And, he just pretty much lets her know, hey, listen, your life is in my hands. Okay? Your life is in my hands, and you're going to do what I tell you to do. Otherwise, you can just die a slow, painful death, and Jason gets to sit there and not be able to do anything because he doesn't have the resources to get you the medicine that I have. And while they're going back and forth, Dalton comes in. See, here's the thing. We all knew that this man was living on borrowed time. Comes in, he's all drunk, rambling and raving and stuff. And Britt's like, you cause attention to this operation. You know, you just being a jackass and you're lying, you're trying to, you know, um, fake evidence to get a teenager arrested because of your ego and everything like that. Like, and she pretty much was like, I can do your job. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not even really needed pretty much. Sitwell calmly goes to get his gun and just shoots him. And in the previews, Britt's like, why'd you do that for? Are you serious? Like, really? You're not know who you're working for? Did you not just sit there and list out all the things and pretty much how much of a liability he is? And you just ask, why'd you do that? Girl, you just laid it out in only 5 minutes. Like, what are we talking about? Yeah. So, like I said, parents are on the same page towards the end of the episode. And, they all agree that Charlotte and Danny should sit there and testify. Should sit there and come clean. Which sounds good on paper, except for the fact that you have two dumbass teenagers that deciding, oh, well, we're not just going to sit there and give Rock a release. No. Because we got to sit there and make shit extra overly complicated. No, we got to sit there and make sure that he pays. because you don't think that when the truth comes out, he's already going to sit there and pay for false statements and tampering with evidence and all this other stuff. You don't think that that's not going to be payment? Okay, Charlotte. If they were feeling bad before, they're going to feel even worse now. And like I said, I don't care. Um, like at this point, there's a good, I was not there thinking about it. Oh wait, I did sit there and say I knew now if um Sitwell just shot Dalton, right? There's a good chance that my theory from yesterday, as far as framing Laura for Dalton's shooting, could still work. Yes, she just won, but if she's tried for murder and stuff like that, that means that Azra can still sit there and be mayor, and they can push out Sonny. So Sitwell's plan, well, my plan that I just made up. Um, if he goes with that, his plan, and everything like that can still work out. But I guess time will tell. Now, I feel like that is generally about it as far as this review. Um, there's some stuff here or there that I might not have actually mentioned. But that's the general gist of it. Now, if I left anything out, come to the live stream tonight. We'll sit there and talk about this episode and all the episodes of today from all 5 of the soaps. You know what they are. With that being said, I'll see you in the next video and live stream tonight.